Hey, I'm Jesse. Let's have a devotion. Daniel 9:25. You're going to hear a lot from this one because in the 70 weeks of Daniel, we get all of Gentile history laid out. In the 70th week of Daniel, we get the interpretive key for the apocalypse, frankly. So let's show something that like eagle-eyed viewers with eidetic memory will have already put together. If you were with us in our series through Esther, you remember something, a decree by Artaxerxes Longimanus, which is fulfilled in the Gospels and foretold by Daniel. Here's Daniel 9:25. Again, do not dare complain if you stick with us to this series and you hear these things multiple times, because I think as we get onto that week, I think we have it allocated to be able to go through that text verse by verse every day for a week because it's that important. Know and understand this. So you can see, like, as someone who's tasked with rightly dividing the word of truth, I want you to know and understand this. It's because I'm reading. From the issuing of the decree to restore and build Jerusalem until an anointed one, the ruler, will be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. It will be rebuilt with a plaza and a moat, but in difficult times. Now, this footnote, that ruler, refers to an anointed one or a prince. Okay, I'll delete that for now just because it'll cause confusion when we get to another use of the word prince. I don't want you to end up confusing Jesus with the Antichrist. But we're given a timeline that is in weeks of years. 7 weeks. Okay, that means 49 years. And 62 weeks. So this is 69 of the 70 weeks of years. So, man, I just did that math like the other day. Is that 483 years total? Now, there's the starting point, the issuing of the decree to restore and build Jerusalem until an anointed one, that's Jesus, the ruler. What's remarkable is that there's only one point at which Jesus is known as the ruler and actively sets up things, orchestrates events so that people will call him a ruler, and that is upon the triumphal entry. The anointed one, that's the Christ, that's Jesus. And he's only lets people call him the ruler one time. Other than that, I mean, we've been verse by verse through the Gospels. Okay, we haven't been through Mark, at least not in recent years. But if you've been with me for my ministry for any period of time, you've heard me preach through every gospel. Jesus often would withdraw as people started to crowd in on him. He would heal people and shush them. He'd disappear into the crowd. But in the triumphal entry marked by Palm Sunday, and by the way, whether or not you believe that was a Sunday or I think a Friday determines what you believe about like the which calendar applies to Jesus. So there are some who believe that the crucifixion had to have been on a Friday, and that's Good Friday, right? That's what we maintain. It's why we worship on Sunday mornings. But there's some dispute around this, and I think this is partly where some of the Seventh-day Adventists may come from. That Jesus wasn't crucified in 33 AD, but in like what do they believe, 28 AD? Anyway, Palm Sunday, as we call it, is the one time when Jesus is like, "Hey, go get this donkey. Tell them the master needs it. They'll know what's going on." He's orchestrating all of the details here, and we've got like the donkey situation is set, and as we harmonize the Gospels, you see there's more than one donkey involved, and people start laying palm branches on the ground. When they run out of palm branches, they start laying their coats down on the ground, and they're saying like Hosanna. And we're going to look at that in greater detail moving forward, but just suffice to say right now, I believe that's a fulfillment of the end point of this, the anointed one, the ruler. But let's look at this, the issuing of the decree to restore and build Jerusalem. Those of you who have like crazy good memories will remember from the book of Ezra, the revival project, part 2, this proclamation. After these events, during the reign of King Artaxerxes of Persia, Ezra, Sariah's son, Azariah's son, Hilkiah's son, Shallum's son, Zadok's son, Ahitub's son, Amariah's son, Azariah's son, Meraioth's son, Zariah's son, Uzziah's son, Bukai's son, Abishua's son, Phinehas' son, Eleazar's son, the chief priest Aaron's son. So he's just given himself sort of this backwards genealogical connection to the first priest of the Aaronic priesthood, date back to Moses' brother, came up from Babylon. He was a scribe skilled in the law of Moses, which the Lord, the God of Israel, had given. The king had granted him everything he requested because the hand of the Lord his God was on him. Some of the Israelites, priests, Levites, singers, gatekeepers, and temple servants accompanied him to Jerusalem in the 7th year of King Artaxerxes. Ezra came to Jerusalem in the 5th month during the 7th year of the king. He began the journey from Babylon on the 1st day of the 1st month and arrived in Jerusalem on the 1st day of the 5th month, since the gracious hand of his God was on him. Now Ezra had determined in his heart to study the law of the Lord, obey it, and teach its statutes and ordinances in Israel. This is the text of the letter King Artaxerxes gave to Ezra the priest and scribe, an expert in matters of the Lord's commands and statutes for Israel. Artaxerxes, king of kings, again lowercase k's, to Ezra the priest, an expert in the law of God of the heaven, law of the God of the heavens. One time he's referred to this way. Greetings. I issue a decree that any of the Israelites in my kingdom, including their priests and Levites who want to go to Jerusalem, may go with you. You are sent by the king and his 7 counselors to evaluate Judah and Jerusalem according to the law of your God, which is in your possession. You are also to bring the silver and gold the king and his counselors have willingly given to the God of Israel, whose dwelling is in Jerusalem, and all the silver and gold you receive throughout the province of Babylon, together with the free will offerings given by the people and the priests to the house of their God in Jerusalem. Then you are to be diligent to buy with this money bulls, rams, and lambs, along with their grain and drink offerings, and offer them on the altar at the house of your God in Jerusalem. You may do whatever seems best to you and your brothers with the rest of the silver and gold according to the will of your God. Deliver to the God of Jerusalem all the articles given to you for the service of the house of your God. You may use the royal treasury to pay for anything else needed for the house of your God. I, King Artaxerxes, issue a decree to all the treasurers in the region west of the Euphrates River. Whatever Ezra the priest, an expert in the law of the God of the heavens, asks of you, you must be provided in full, up to 7,500 pounds of silver, 500 bushels of wheat, 550 gallons of wine, 550 gallons of oil, and salt without limit. Whatever is commanded by the God of the heavens must be done diligently for the house of the God of the heavens, so that wrath will not fall on the realm of the king and his sons. Be advised that you do not have authority to impose tribute, duty, and land tax on any priests, Levites, singers, doorkeepers, temple servants, or other servants of this house of God. And you, Ezra, according to God's wisdom that you possess, appoint magistrates and judges to judge all the people in the region west of the Euphrates who know the laws of your God, to teach anyone who does not know them. Anyone who does not keep the law of your God and the law of the king, let the appropriate judgment be executed against him, whether death, banishment, confiscation of property, or imprisonment. These things weren't prescribed, but this is Artaxerxes' style. He's giving him Persian-style reign. Blessed be the Lord, the God of our ancestors, who has put it into the king's mind. So this is Ezra now, after publishing this letter that was decreed by Artaxerxes. Now Ezra's aside to you and I. Blessed be the Lord God of our ancestors, well, more specifically to Jewish readers, who has put it into the king's mind to glorify the house of the Lord in Jerusalem, and who has shown favor to me before the king, his counselors, and all his powerful officers. So I took courage because I was strengthened by the hand of the Lord my God, and I gathered Israelite leaders to return with me. This is the decree for the rebuilding of Jerusalem, isn't it? I, King Artaxerxes, issue a decree. There it is. Artaxerxes, I issue a decree, all right, to go to Jerusalem, and here it is. This is Ezra 7. And all the genealogical bona fides are present. Everything is presented in an orderly fashion, and it's unassailable. And how impeccably it's given. There it is. What was the prophecy of Daniel 9:25? Know and understand this. From the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until an anointed one, that's Jesus, the ruler, will be 7 weeks. Okay, that's 49 years. And 62 weeks. Okay, so that's a total of 70 times 7 years. Because we're not just talking about days. We're talking about weeks of years. It will be rebuilt with a plaza and a moat, but in difficult times. And indeed, that's true. Go back and see our series, The Revival Project. It's what launched our building campaign. We talked about difficulty in Nehemiah. We saw the difficulty that Nehemiah hit. We saw the difficulty that Ezra hit. We saw that they faced difficult times indeed. So go back and watch The Revival Project if you have not already. You'll see that Daniel 9:25 was absolutely fulfilled. So I wanted to show you where that came from. That's the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, right? That's Artaxerxes' decree. And then as we continue on, I'll show you more of this impeccable fulfillment. Consider, as we close though, the remarkable implications of this, because that is quite the evidence of scriptural inerrancy, of inspiration. It is proof that the Bible is inspired by God. It could then be the ultimate apologetic, because we know for a fact this Daniel book, as echoed and copied by the Septuagint, it's just a backup copy. Not that many extra copies is necessary, but on top of it, we have it. It foretold what would happen long before the Persian Empire was the Persian Empire. Daniel set the stage for everything that was to follow. All right. He knew while the Babylonians were in power that the Persians were coming, and he even foresaw the Greeks after them and the Romans after them, and even the Antichrist's final reign at the end of all days. So he knew everything that was to come. Consider the implications of this. That there'd be this prophecy and its fulfillment, and we'd maintain this in the historical record, such that Daniel, with zero margin of error, would know exactly to the day how much time should go by between this decree by Artaxerxes Longimanus and this anointed one as the ruler. Tune in tomorrow, all right, and we'll count out the days, we'll count out the years.